For unto whomsoever much is given, of him shall be much required. What of the one who simply gives because? Diego Ugalde, a troubadour of truth. Diego, it's freaking great to have you. Let me start by saying thank you. Time is a non-renewable commodity, and I appreciate you spending yours with us.
Yeah, no problem. I suppose it depends on what dimension you're talking about.
And I am so glad you started there because we're diving in the deep end. I don't want to waste another minute. I'm going to start with the trilogy of questions, my signature 3-part. Take some of it or all of it, however you wish. Diego, who are you? Who have you been? And most importantly, who are you currently becoming?
That also depends on what dimension you're talking about. Who am I? There are some people that I would answer that question saying, I'm a son of a Air Force veteran, first generation immigrant from Mexico. There's some that I would answer that, sometimes I can be an asshole for literally no reason. Sometimes, most of the time, I'm uncommonly patient with other people according to their perspectives. There are some people that I would answer that question that I am the sum of my ancestors, thinking about cellular memory and just all the contributions that have existed in order for me to even be here. I'm the sum of all that. And there are some that I would respond by saying, just like we all are, I am all that is. And there are some that I would answer that question with just the energetic connection of love, I think. So I suppose it depends on who I'm answering that question for. Who was I? Same. It seems as though I've been a madman, waiting in the gallows for my turn sometime in the mid dark ages, even with the drool and the slobber on my face, with scraggly long shoulder length hair. I've been some sort of philosopher, some kind of shoe guy, a bullfighter apparently. I've been on the battlefields of Ireland. I was a left-handed guy. Apparently on my way to dying, which was also really cool, maybe at least for me to see, maybe not for him to experience. I've been somebody who lived long enough ago to walk from Russia across to Alaska, as part of maybe the first migration of humans in North America, for all I know or don't know. But in this lifetime, I have been also many things. I've been the little brother. I've been the son in a single parent family. I've been the one who struggles in school. I've been the one to talk to, even at a young age, for my peers, just to have real deep, loving, receptive conversation. I've been one who dreamed about being a SEAL. I've been the one to fail training. I've been the one to succeed through training. I've been the one to realize everything I've ever worked for, at least the realization in that moment was everything I worked for was not what I wanted. I've been the one who has gotten a glimpse of the idea that I don't even exist. And then where am I going? I think in the end, I'm going back to center, to the core essence of who I've always been, just with awareness. But that remains to be seen, whether or not that happens in this lifetime or not. Like, who knows?
Yeah, Diego, there are a few things that you left out. So first, thank you for your service. I mean that with deep sincerity. You are a shaman, my language, channeling help for others.
Not mine. Yes.
Yeah, my language.
I accept your word.
So we will lean in on that. I also recognize you as a 15-year Navy Special Warfare operator, a senior chief petty officer with significant combat experience in clandestine missions. So thank you for that as well. What's most unique to me, and I'm going to repeat your language back to you that I clipped from some desk side research, and I quote you, never really knew who I was as a human. And what does that mean?
I was living under the incomplete awareness that I was the little brother, that I was the guy who failed SEAL training, the guy who made it through SEAL, the guy who was a SEAL. Like that's who I always thought that I was. Of course, you know, why wouldn't I? It's like in my direct three-dimensional experience, you know, what am I going to say? And then I had an experience where instantly that was all changed. Not so much in the deepest connection of knowing, but just a flash of awareness. Maybe you're not who you think you are. Maybe this isn't all what you think that it is. And that was enough. It's almost like the cracking open of the door. How come nobody told me? How come nobody knew? And yeah, there's a human that exists here that you're seeing here. It's not like that doesn't exist, but it's so small in the grand scheme of things. It's so tiny what I thought that I was. I had no idea that I was also, and then this. I didn't know that.
Amazing. Listening to you, there are two things that I want to put a pin on and circle back to. The concept of time and the concept of perspective.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
But before we get there, I want to start with a little foundational discussion. You failed Buds Class 199 after 4 months. Walk me back to the moment you got dropped, and what was the story you told yourself that night?
I had been getting my ass kicked for the 4 months that I was there because I showed up absolutely unprepared. I was 20 years old with the maturity level of maybe a 12-year-old. To me, I just wasn't going to quit, so everything was fine. But I wasn't in shape, and we started running, and there is a law of physics that exists here in this world, and my bones were like, what are we doing, dude? And so they slowly started breaking, and I literally failed every single time run we had. I was always last in all the runs. I just stood out for all the wrong reasons. But I never quit. And so we continued to go on, and I was taking whatever 2,400 milligrams of Motrin every day. And I think it was Thursday. Yeah, it was Thursday before Hell Week. And this is in 1990. Yeah, just after the new year of 1995. It was like one of the worst storms on record in Coronado. The wind was just like whipping up. The rain was just going sideways. The streets were rivers of water. And we had to run to the other side of the base to go to the swimming pool to do this event that I didn't even ever. Everyone hears about Hell Week, for example. Everybody hears about all these things, but I never heard about this one evolution. It's called the Beehive. And the Beehive is when they put all the students, and this is before Hell Week, so there's still hundreds of us in class. So they throw us all in the pool. We have boots and pants on and our t-shirts, and we have our masks on, and then we have to fill our masks up with water, and then we have to tread water with our hands above the water. And the instructors are using these sticks to push all the hundreds of us together in the center of the pool. So there's all kinds of like choking and kicking and scraping and bumping, and we're trying not to drown each other. We're trying to stay in our own little space, but they keep pushing us together. So it's like impossible. It's just mass chaos. And all the time, all the wind and rain is just driving us, freezing outside. and people are getting out of the pool in like groups of 10 to quit. I mean, just loads and loads and loads of dudes are quitting. And we're there, I forget how many hours we were there, just doing this whole thing with people, coughing and choking up and grabbing onto the wall, and they're not supposed to grab onto the wall and all this stuff. So we end up getting out of the pool at the end. We made it. We made it through. And we had our instructor sit us aside for the ones that were left. And he said, you guys, we're going into Hell Week next week. And I'm here to tell you, by the way, this is the first time anybody had ever had like a normal conversation with us. It's always just yelling. It's always, you guys suck. It's always, you guys need to die. You guys are a waste of everything in the world. But he actually pulled us aside and had a real conversation with us this time. And he said, I got to tell you, there's nothing you're going to experience in Hell Week that's worse than what you just went through. If you just do this for 5.5 days straight, you're gonna make it. And just hearing anything better than like you need to die was something significant, But for him to say something like that, for a Navy SEAL to say, keep going and you'll make it. We were all, it didn't matter how hard the wind was blowing. It didn't matter how much rain was flowing. It just didn't matter. So from there, we ran to dinner, and our chests were out, a mile wide and all this, and wind is all whipping up, and we're going to be Navy SEALs, And then we go into dinner and we sit down and we're eating, and I get a tap on my shoulder, and it's my class officer, and he goes, hey, dude, they have this thing, it's called a Hell Week board, and if you failed any evolution whatsoever, whether it's the 50-meter breath hold or life-saving or timed runs or anything, you got to go in front of the board and they decide whether or not you stay. And all of a sudden, I just like my heart just hit the floor because I failed every single time run we had. And I was like, oh my God, I'm screwed. And he says, hey man, if there's anybody in the class that's safe, it's you. Because I had been through so much. They had given me everything they could to try to get me to quit. Your podcast isn't long enough for me to tell you all the story. They stood around me in circles trying to get me to quit while the rest of the class was doing whatever. But I just refused anyway. So he's like, if anybody's safe, it's you, dude. So just don't worry about it. You're fine. We went home. We woke up the next day. We went to class, and then we were kind of setting up we were preparing all the boats and all the life jackets and helmets and things like that for Hell Week that was going to be starting that weekend for all the people that were going to Hell Week. For the rest of us, because I wasn't the only one who went through the Hell Week boards, we had to kind of sit in this place we called the pit and just wait for our name to be called. And one by one, they called us out. We stood in front of a board of Navy SEAL instructors, and they decided whether or not we were going to stay or not. Some guys came back crying. Some guys came back ecstatic. And finally, it was my turn. And I walked in there and they said, you don't belong here, dude. See ya. And it had taken me so long to get there because just getting there, it took me 2 years just to get there because I failed the ASVAB. I failed all this stuff. I failed the screening test, like all this stuff. I finally made it. And then they're like, you don't belong here. I remember sitting on the stairs there, just packing up my room in the barracks, getting ready to get picked up. And I was just overlooking the ocean, just crying, because to me at that age, it was the end of my life. What was I going to be? I was going to be homeless. I was going to, just, my mind was just ripe with all the stories it wanted to hear. But ultimately it was about failure. It was about not being good enough. It was, I wanted to be in the SEAL teams because of my idea of the family, of the connection, of the tribe. And the tribe was like, not welcome, beat it. And because I had never experienced that in my life. I didn't experience it at home. I didn't experience it anywhere. I mean, I went there to experience that. And they're like, nah. So yeah, that was really, really hard to experience. Obviously, all lessons and good for me at the end of it all.
Going through that, did they do you a favor or a disservice?
There's nothing. It just happened. There is no favor in my mind. This is just my perspective.
Please.
Is all. There's no favor or disservice. For example, let's say they let me go through. when I was out going through the process, the doctor said it's a good thing they dropped you, because if you would have ran until Wednesday, your legs would have broken all the way through and you wouldn't have been able to walk normally for the rest of your life. So, but even, okay, so let's say that happens and I go through my life not moving the way I always would have. There is something to be gained from that. I would have, who knows, like maybe I would have got involved with, the Paralympics. Like, it doesn't, who knows what, maybe I would have been a drug addict and learned what it is to exist in the space of being addicted. It doesn't matter. It just was the way that it was, and it is as it is.
Nice. Before the teams, you were a paramedic. You said you loved being there because that was where people needed you the most.
Yeah.
Is that something from childhood? When did that impulse become something that you could stand in front of and not behind?
Well, I think it's easy. It's easy enough for me to point that is childhood, and it could be limited to that. It also could extend to this whole idea we were talking about, cellular memory, where even science can tell at least up to 7 generations of people who have contributed to me being as I am are all within my DNA. And so maybe it's part of them that needed that too. I don't know. It's not, I wouldn't be able to say one way or the other, but for sure that was something that was very alive in me as a child, of not being needed, not being believed, not being regarded, not being protected in the way that I was aware of. I was absolutely being protected, but it was just beyond my awareness. I was loved. It was just beyond it was just in a different flavor than I would have preferred as a 5-year-old or a 13-year-old or whatever. No big deal. Like, who doesn't that apply to? But that was my experience. So, but being a paramedic and holding space and being with somebody in the midst of what might well be the most terrifying moment of their life, and being there and it being enough for them is, yeah,
right.
This is where it's at, dude.
Nice.
Yeah.
My man, that's how I experience you. I experience you as this altruistic healer, this sort of energy pod of transmissions that are giving and receiving. So I appreciate that. But that stands in stark contrast to another quote that I picked up that you've put out in the public. You called your career, and I quote, a disruptive war cloud. How can someone that is so eager to help others when they need you the most, or they need that life support the most, refer to their career as a disruptive war cloud?
Yeah. I was disruptive for many reasons. One of the reasons why I was disruptive is one of the reasons that attracted me to the SEAL community. It's like apparently it's in my DNA to be this rule breaker. I'm from the Basque region of Spain, and apparently the Basque folks are just, show me in a rule and I'll break it. Like, I don't care what it's about, and there's still so much of that lives within me. I think that there are rules that are good to follow, but most of the rules I hear, well, why are we doing that? Like, what's that all about? Why are there stop signs in the middle of the parking lot that don't make, and I live my life like the rules that apply to me are the ones that I choose to follow, which make many people uncomfortable. And especially in the military, when there are orders to be followed. If I thought I knew better, I said something. Which I didn't always know better, but I thought that I knew better. You know what I mean? I was like, whatever. But I've had real confrontational discussions with generals when I was a very low-ranking enlisted guy. That made a lot of people uncomfortable. I was, in the end, I didn't care who ambassadors. I didn't. In the end, I didn't. If I felt like I was right, which, whatever, like whatever, but I said something about it, and that didn't make people altogether comfortable where I was. The other reason why I was disruptive was I was not cut out of the common cloth of a Navy SEAL. When I showed up to the SEAL teams, my superpower was hugging people. And they're like, "What the fuck are you doing? We're here to kill people." I'm like, "Oh yeah, let's kill everybody," And I just started to try to, for real, like I try to like, but it wasn't like it came out of nowhere. I mean, this is after September 11th when I finally made it through and all that stuff, and I was just as angry as the media was trying to make me. So, all of that, but it just was out of alignment with my state of being. But I had no idea because I didn't even know what my state of being was. So, because of that, all the time I was in the SEAL teams, I was out of balance. I wasn't running on all Diego cylinders. The first time that I tried to be a SEAL, it was because they jumped out of airplanes, they went after bad guys, they drove cars real fast, they blew stuff up, all the things. But the second time I went back, it was one reason, and it was because I was ashamed of myself for not making it through. And it wasn't like it was a horrible thing to be a SEAL. They still jumped out of airplanes, they still went after bad guys, they still shot, all this stuff is cool. But if it wasn't for the shame, I wouldn't, at that time in my life, I was super happy being a paramedic. Like I was like in my jam being a paramedic. So because of that, I was just living life out of balance. There's just no way to be at my best. And so, I had to reconcile with that somehow just life wasn't clicking for me while I was in this place. I mean, I didn't feel like I was, in every community, whether you're an astronaut or, it doesn't matter. There's always an echelon of performers. And I was never the worst, but I wasn't where I wanted to be. But I just kept putting my head down and just kept going. There's that element within my ego that just refused to quit because of all kinds of silly reasons, but reasons that were real to me at the time. They were the only thing I really knew. So I was disruptive politically. I was disruptive operationally. I was disruptive culturally. All of these things, and all of it happened in combat, and all of it happened in my mass confusion, and all of it happened. So that's all of this stuff, To me, disruptive war cloud sounds pretty right.
No, I appreciate that. And look, I would not have used the word disruptive. I find people that are contrarians or march to their own drum beat, provided they're consistently that way, they're very predictable and they're ideal, regardless of what their disposition may be, because you can throttle down or throttle up. It's the ones that are wily, that are they fly off the handle and they go tribal, like with no provocation. That they're frightening from a brotherhood, team, Caldery point of view. But I appreciate you sharing that, and your vulnerability. Shame has been a topic of conversation I've had recently with trauma survivors, which is not something that I would associate with trauma. So I've been educated, which was quite unique. You brought the concept up of family and the sense of brotherhood in the teams as being real and legitimate and something that was nourishing to you. Awesome. But, you ready, Diego? But brotherhood can also be a perfect place to disappear. Were you ever lonely inside the closest team in the military?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of what we were talking about before. It was like, here I am. I felt like I was at the table at the Hall of Justice, with all the superheroes. But it's like, what am I doing? These guys were killers, and they were super smart and super brilliant and super tactical and flexible and all this stuff. And I'm sitting here with, an already breaking body. And I was a new guy, I was a new guy at 30 years old. And my body had been through so much just to get there that I wasn't like most dudes showing up, And so, yeah, the entire time I had very close relationships with really super amazing guys. And at the same time, I literally always felt like I was an outsider because of the only thing, which is my mind. That I was not an outsider, but it was, I didn't know anything about the narrative. I didn't know anything about the ego. I didn't know anything about any of that. So to me, that was my reality. Was, oh, I'm an outsider. I barely made it here. It took me 10 years to get here when it takes other people 2 years to get here. You know, it's just all, I'm not this seasoned killer. I'm not this amazing God's gift to tactics. I'm not all that. But the one thing that really kept me, I mean, it wasn't all misery by any means, but the one thing that kept me where I felt like I had deep value was we were in war and I had 5 years experience on the streets as a paramedic. So everything that would or could happen to these guys, I had been able to do it. I might have felt one way about being a SEAL, but I felt excellent as a medic. And I felt like no matter if anything, I want to be the guy that's there if anybody gets shot. Like that's the way I really, really felt. So it wasn't all this horrible stuff. It wasn't all this separation. It wasn't all this. I mean, I had real powerful stuff to contribute as well. But of course, the thinking mind being what it is, the ego being what it is, it's focusing on the fear aspect and survival and all that stuff. So I was like, okay, yeah, I may be the best medic in the teams, but that doesn't matter. You know, I missed that one shot right here, a little off to the left, and I should have done better. You know, just,
Sure.
that can keep going on forever.
Interesting. Wow, what a grounding. I have a good understanding of who and where you've been. I want to flip the script now and move it forward. The proverbial script.
Flipping scripts.
Let's roll. You made a comment.
Let's go, dude.
Man, you said, I am all that is. That's an awesome comment. And you also said the door was cracked open and you had my language, an enlightenment, an aha moment. So walk me through the sequence of cracking the door open, not sensationalizing it, but the first time one of those modalities actually crept into your life and what caused it to come into your life and how did you know to receive it?
First time it came into my life, I had a guy that was working for me this after I retired, and he was another team guy who was struggling pretty heavy with traumatic brain injury, addiction, depression, all the stuff, PTS, everything. And he said, "Hey, I'm going down to Mexico. There's an organization that takes SEALs down there and treats all of these conditions, PTS and all the things with psychedelic medicine." And that was the first time I'd ever heard of psychedelics being used in the context of mental health. For me, up to that point, it is, that's what people who went to Disneyland did. That's what people who went to musical festivals did.
Yes.
But at the same time, I didn't care because I knew that he was smacked up pretty good with all that stuff. And if this is medicine, go for it. I can't wait to see when we get back. The following week, he came back and he had a light in his eyes and a vibrancy to a smile we'd never seen before. I mean, even his skin color was different. And we're like, dude, what the fuck happened to you? And because he was, it was this whole other thing. And he goes, I got no words. It's life-changing. Got to introduce you. So a few weeks later, I went down there just to observe. And I literally watched them saving the lives of these guys right out from under my nose. Like I saw it happening.
What does that look like?
Yeah, probably the essence of a transformation of an instant, at least at that moment, an instant letting go of illusion, of baggage, of thinking, and just experiencing all the things that exist underneath all of that. It's momentary, but at the time it feels life-changing. It's not transformational in the sense of oh, okay, they're forever changed from having experienced it. And one thing that's very difficult to convey to people is like, well, you realize you're on drugs, right? It's like, well, all I can say is I've never known truth until I've seen it through the eyes of elevated states of consciousness, which is what plant medicine does. Um, and so, in the end, though, when the journey's over, they're brought back into this three-dimensional world. The change being that they've experienced this, but the reality is there's so much work that needs to be done. There's so much of the process that needs to be navigated and experienced for that actual transformation to stick. But the experience is so powerful that people don't realize. They feel like well, I'm kind of done. I did it. It's amazing. I mean, it really feels like that. And because I certainly didn't know at the time, I thought that that's what was going on. These guys were instantly in the form of like maybe 15 or 20 minutes, instantly transformed. And then so I went through this medicine. This medicine is called 5-MeO-DMT, and it's, to our awareness, the most powerful psychedelic medicine in the world. And the reason why they say, because you look at ibogaine, it was like 12 or 16-hour journey. Ayahuasca is 5 or 6 hours. The reason why they refer to this as being the most powerful psychedelic in the world is because one can experience something that I haven't experienced on any other medicine, which is just connection to what is. In all the other medicines, there's stories, there's teaching, there's narration, there's process going on, there's purging, there's all this stuff. This is just like you're not even human anymore. Like you're not even, you are finally this. And so there's no actual useful words. Is experiencing. That's what it is. There's no explaining the idea that I am all that is. You're just experiencing it. And the moment somebody asks you to explain it, you're already leaving that point of the experience of all that is. It's confining. You have to twist and manipulate things to make it fit into boxes that it can't. There's no boxing. And I'm not trying to be difficult, and I'm not trying to be all like whatever, but it is, as far as I know, as it is. There is an experiencing all that is. And if you have you ever woke up from a dream and then you try to think about what the dream is, and then all of a sudden it like disappears, but then you stop thinking about it and it starts to kind of creep in.
Sure.
And then you think about it and it goes away. It's like that. There's no thinking. It's like instantly when the thinking comes in, it's like the ocean smashing into a glass of water. It's like, well, it kind of doesn't even matter anymore. It's like, yeah.
So
it's hard to explain.
Will you talk about powerful peace? Is that what you're referencing?
Yeah. The reason why I put there's a really common English language word for this, but I put the word powerful peace because usually when I'm having conversations with most people, not all people, equate peace to like weakness or just softness, which is immensely powerful, but most people don't understand softness as the immense power that it is. And so the qualifier, right? That's what I do. I like, it's powerful peace. It's not, which even in and of itself is something go like, oh, let me help you really understand. I fucking can't. But I don't want there to be any confusion that this is not a process of deflating. This is not it's not a process of minimizing. It's a process of acceptance, which is very different. And even again, you talk about acceptance or allowing. It's like, oh, then I'm weak. Then I'm surrendering. It's like, this is not a surrender. This is an allowing, which is a very deliberate, conscious state of being. And so, yeah, I use that qualifier to do my best to make sure, or to do my best to help people understand that this is, in fact, as far as to my awareness, is the most powerful state of existence, maybe except short of ecstasy, which I don't have. I don't have ecstasy in my direct experience, so I can't really speak to it. But from what I understand, even beyond this idea of peace that I'm speaking of, ecstasy exists, and who knows?
This is amazing. I'm deeply curious. Powerful peace. You also use the word confining, which to me means confinement, which means stuck in a physical space. So my mind naturally goes to, well, what does powerful peace feel like in the body? And is the body confining to this experience? Or have you disassociated? Or are you having an out of body experience? Is how my mind's dropping these notes.
Well, what you're talking about is, so it's always the mind is going back to trying to explain this. Instantly, it's it, it's limiting, because all this stuff that we're talking about is actually beyond the mind. It's experience. It's what I was saying before about experiencing more of what is. And the more you try to label, the more you try to assign, the more you try to understand, you're putting this three, if you're using a three-dimensional filter, which if all your whole life experience is rooted in a three-dimensional space, you can only be limiting it. It's only when one has this practice of experiencing elevated states of consciousness over and over and over again that the thinking mind starts to adjust, like, oh. And so we can start to put some words, but even in the end, the English language itself is only a three-dimensional tool. It can't, there's no word that can describe be. It's the word that we have. But I can say, what it is to be to a 10-year-old, and they'll go, oh yeah, this is what it means. But the idea of being there's no words for it. So the moment something is attached, the moment something is labeled, the moment something is ascribed, it's smalling it, like the ocean. You look at the ocean, it is this, and then all of a sudden, yeah, I know the ocean. There's fish in there, there's coral there, some sand in there, there's submarines and stuff. I know the ocean. It's like, you don't know the ocean.
So that gets us back to perspective. And what stimulus create different responses to your perception of yourself and how you interface with the world around you. It's remarkable to hear the concept of softness being powerful, and not like use a keto and use someone else's energy. That's not what we're talking about here. So I really appreciate the way you frame it. And I can visualize when you say crack the door and the light comes in, like I experience darkness and a little bit of light, and softness being powerful. For me, it's self-control, it's empathy, it's all the things that go into being present in the moment. If I'm understanding it, which brings me to a concept that you've developed and are developing, sort of part of your inner outer mission, as I call it, and that is the heroic hearts. What is a heroic heart? What does that mean to you as far as an ideology, and what does it structurally mean as far as perhaps an organization or a process?
Yeah, Heroic Hearts Project is a nonprofit started by an amazing guy named Jesse Gould, who's an Army Ranger who was lost in the world of PTS and all the things. And he found his way to Peru and ayahuasca, and he thought this needs to be the way for veterans to heal. And so he started a Heroic Hearts Project, and they've been rocking and rolling. I've been rocking with them since 2022 as a psychedelic integration coach. I'm also a team leader with them, and also what they call a facilitator. So, I sit with veterans in ceremony. I help prepare and coach them before the ceremony itself. I sit with them within the ceremony, and then I'll help them. You were mentioning this idea of doing the hard work afterwards, which is really where 99% of all this healing, learning, transformational stuff actually happens is on the other side of the medicine. So amazing, amazing organization. They hold retreats in Peru, Mexico, and even some psilocybin retreats in Oregon, which is it's legal there. So they have all that. Just incredible, incredible organization.
Fantastic. Recognizing that and your experiences, you're sitting across from a vet, one who's been through the VA system, is currently out of options today, and is now considering plant-based medicine. What is the one thing you tell them within the first 5 minutes?
Yeah, I have to feel them. Everyone's different. Everyone needs different words. Um, Sometimes I have found myself saying things like, "You're not alone. Your story is your own. There have been many who have experienced things like yours, but none like your own. But they have all come here for different reasons, and this can be helpful for most. But you got to do the work." There have been some times where I've been sitting in front of them within the first 5 minutes. This is not what you think it is. This is, there's this whole other thing. The medicine doesn't do the healing for you. It does some, there for sure, there's some physiological things that happen in the brain and indeed, even in the cells that are beyond our awareness that, it just helps in cellular regeneration and even like reverse aging in some of the cells, neuroplasticity and all that stuff. And so it does medicine in that way too. But the medicine that people are really seeking are the tangible things like the storm of the mind and the night terrors and the addictive behaviors and all that stuff. That's what they're really there taking the medicine for most commonly. And because their road has been so long, and the VA does a really good job at prolonging that road and just fogging the chemistry of their bodies with really, some of these drugs are life-saving, and at the end, they can also be really destructive, just like fire can be. So they're in this long, long, long process, and they come up with no more energy left in the tank. And then, I need you to do this. I need ayahuasca to do this for me. And those are actually wonderful words to hear because they're so weak that it's hard to fight. And that's what all this is anyway, is fighting against what is, because we don't know any better. But I always tell every single time, ayahuasca is not going to do shit. Like, it's going to show you something. In the end, it's up to you. And if you don't have the gas left, but I think what you're going to find is that you do have the gas left. And usually always, not always, but usually always, they do have gas left. And it is only because that they have been broken down to that level of weakness where they found that strength that doesn't go anywhere. It's always within them and that they are capable. But there's some people who it's not enough. They continue on with suicide, and it is as it is. It's not it's not a preventer of sorts. So yeah, there's a lot of different conversations that I have with different people within the first 5 minutes, depending on where they are.
You meet people where they are, and that's a superpower. You're not coming to it with a preconceived notion or a template of applying. You're actually assessing and evaluating and then determining what's next.
No assessing, no thinking. Is my mind just getting in? Oh, I know what this person needs to hear. Like, oh, I don't know shit. Just listen, like deep ass listening with no wanting, no agenda, just receiving. And then in that receiving, it's not only them that I'm listening to. I'm also listening to this core essence of who I am, I think, and through out of that comes whatever comes out of me. But I'm not. They're not in a doctor's office. I'm not doing blood pressure checks and diagnostics and like that's. I not for me. Can't know, don't need to know. I just listen and then reflect And something I think that's important to say too, because it's the idea of meeting them where they are is something that's said really often in the coaching spaces. But yeah, like, yeah, I'm here to meet you where you are, but get ready because we're fucking leaving here. We're not staying here.
It's go time, baby. Let's roll.
Yeah, no,
Oh my God.
let's do this. You know what I mean? And cool in the gang. But I don't. Yeah, it's I don't sit in the misery and the I don't stay with them where they are. And they know that very also up front. It's like, yeah, I'll meet you where you are, but yeah, you spend enough time here, wouldn't you say? Let's check something else out.
Different view. I got it. Listen, this plant medicine is all over the news. It's having an amazing resurgence, a moment. I appreciate that. At least in my life, for every good, there's been a bad, and for every bad, there's been a good. There's an equal but opposite reaction to everything. I don't hear much in the news or anywhere about perhaps destructiveness related to plant medicine. And let me ask this question. Can one taking the medication learn or experience something that is destructive to themselves? Can they learn that they were an abuser, a pain provider, something completely opposite to who they are, and they come off of this experience measurably altered in a non-positive way?
Yeah, all the time. But well, it depends. I could say yes, and I could also say absolutely not, because what's the destruction in awareness? Because if that was something then that means that that's repressed, which means that that energy exists, which means that that energy contributes to how they talk to their daughter, how they talk to the person giving them coffee, how they like who, you know. So it all of the in my world, from my perspective, let's bring it, let's go, all of it, let's go, let's bring it out, let's do it, and let's work with it, let's learn from it, let's grow because of it, not in spite of it, not around it, not pretend like it didn't exist. Like, it's, if it is so, and if it is not, it is not. There's nothing. Yeah, I don't see it that way though, and I understand that not many people have that way of seeing things. But it's when I consider the idea of what is, there is no harm in acknowledging what is.
I disagree.
We apply harm, you know, like, oh, this hurt me so bad that I did this, or this hurt me so bad that somebody else did this to me. That's only the mind. And that's really hard for people to understand too. And what I did was I just jumped forward, like, you know, 100 coaching sessions. But in the end, everything, and I'm not trying to say what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. It's because that we go through things that we understand how strong we are. It's because we go through things that we have finally come to learn this thing and understand this thing. It's because we understand our resilience. It's because of this that we understand the expansiveness of self. It's not in spite of these things. These things are not supposed to not have happened. And so when people are capable, and not everyone's able to do this, not because it's not truth, but because they just refuse to remove will focus more of their awareness on what is. When people just refuse to see that, they can't get their heads wrapped around it. But when people can, I've seen alcoholics dance happily in a bar with people drinking and be fine. I don't care. It's not for me anymore. I've seen people, same thing with heroin, same thing, all the things. If you are not in a space of absolute power in what was your biggest trauma, there's just more to learn. That's all it is. But I would never prevent or say that that was a bad thing if somebody brought that into their awareness. Like, that's the way. It's not comfortable, but that's it.
Give me a lot to think about. Thank you.
Yeah.
Coach,
Yeah.
let's talk.
Disclaimer for people who are hardcore, like transiting through deep pain. They may not want to hear that. They may not be ready to, like, all the things, you know, who knows, but but I would never say that something went wrong because somebody discovered an isness to their life.
Yes, which lands us on Warriorside and the mission you're undertaking to help others, both in coaching and in how they relate with themselves. And I recognize that storytelling, you're utilizing storytelling as a suicide prevention tool. Is that just a cool way? No. Enunciate, please.
No. I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard a story where they asked Mother Teresa if she wanted to join them on an anti-war rally, and she said no, but if you invite me to a peace rally, I'll be there. And so Warriorside is not about preventing this. It's simply about helping people connect more deeply with the core essence of who they are and connecting with community. It just so happens that when one experiences connection, the whole idea for all that other stuff just goes away. I mean, that's what it is. People aren't dying from suicide from what they remember in war. They're dying from suicide from this idea of being disconnected. And so Warriorside exists to help human beings connect more deeply with the core of who they are. And then should they choose to share these stories on stage, which they don't have to, but should they choose to share these stories, they connect more deeply with community. And that is the way for us.
Who is Warriorside not for?
The people who are not ready to explore the idea of deep vulnerability, deep authenticity, and leaning in to resistance like fear, shame, toxic anger, judgment, doubt, all those things. If you're not ready to, and we're with you, not alone, by the way, like fucking ever. We're right with you the whole time. But if you're not ready to do that, I mean, we've had some people who've had some real rough experiences with Warriorside, and it was rooted in avoidance. They didn't want to see that they're not where they actually are. And because of the significance that Warriorside is in the world, like I literally wouldn't let them progress, so to speak, to the next level. It's like, no, we're not leaving here. You're still in avoidance. And wow, they didn't want to hear it. So it's not for people who are comfortable in their own misery and who are justifying their own misery and all the stuff. There's nothing, they don't need us anyway. There's nothing wrong. Nobody's doing anything wrong. They're not doing anything they're not supposed to be doing. There's nothing like that. It has nothing to do with that. But we get after it, you know, we do. People are suffering, and it sucks to suffer. And people are suffering on a hardcore thing where their family's at risk, their life is at risk. Like, let's go. Let's do this thing. And so when people are ready to go through that experience, then I think Warriorside can be really just a loving place, like actual love, unconditional loving place to support them while they're going through it.
For clarification, Warriorside's a not-for-profit organization that you've set up to help veterans facing anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideation. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So you're building what you've self-described as the next great American storytelling platform. Did I get that?
I think I said
you
that.
Said that.
that was probably for like a website or something like that. Yeah, like, oh, check us out. Look how awesome we are. I'm sure that I said that, and it's funny now. I'm like, ooh, where's that at? Let me change that. It just is. You know, Warriorside is here for people. I don't know if it's the next great American, because I wouldn't say that. The culture of America is just completely aligned with the idea of pursuing truth. In fact, I would say the opposite. I think the culture of America is quite happy pursuing absolute mirage. It's the weirdest thing to me, but whatever it is. So I don't know that we could be the next great American anything because hey, oh man, anyway. So you're right. I did say that. Yeah.
All joking aside, this is more than talk therapy. You're integrating different modalities between meditation, plant medicine, mindfulness, community, camaraderie. So I recognize, and I was playful. I couldn't wait to throw that out and see how you'd respond.
That's what I was like. Oh man, I said, yeah. That's what happens when you get in front of a computer and have to start creating content and sitting in front of microphones and say something like, oh man. But yeah, I did say that. That's 100% true.
That's awesome. So, Diego, we're close to the top of the hour. If someone that's listening would like to get in touch with you for a consultation, a collaboration, or simply to make a contribution to the foundation, the Warriorside Group, how would you like one to go about doing that?
Well, they can go to warriorside.org, and there's a connect tab there. They can push on connect, and then all the information there that they want, whether they want to go through the training or whether they want to hang out with us during our live storytellings, which we have those as well. Or if they just want to connect for coaching, they can all put all that stuff in the comments. If they wanted to contribute, which by the way would be massively, like, super, I can't express to you enough how helpful this would be. But the link for that is givebutter.com/warriorside. And, if we had $400,000 a year, we could do this training on average 1.5 times a month. We can serve 60 veterans all around the country. All these really, really powerful things. But anything, of course, helps. We're doing our first Warriorside retreat so our classes are in person, but we do virtual training to continue tinkering with their stories before they get on stage and share them, if that's what they choose to do. But our classes are so powerful that we got to make a retreat out of this. So in 2027, we're going to Scotland, and we're bringing 10 veterans out there, and it's just going to be this immersive week-long experience into connecting more deeply with this core essence of who they are, and then in the end, learning how to tell their story from this core essence of who they are, rather than the fear and limited mind of the ego. And we're also inviting out the Scottish veterans to come see this experience actually taking place. We're going to go to battlefields and have real deep conversations, all the things. So really looking forward to it. We got and we're going to make it a documentary, by the way. So all of that stuff, we got a lot of stuff coming up, and we're dropping our podcast here pretty soon. Probably by the time this airs, our podcast will be available. Our first 9 or 10 episodes of people who've been through the training, which the beginning of the podcast is their live storytelling, and then the rest of the podcast is just an interview on their experience and all the things about their story. So it's super excited about all kinds of stuff.
Fantastic. And we will include everything in the show notes and push through our social media outlets. Thank you. So, Diego, if the 20-year-old Diego who failed BUD/S could see where you are today, would that individual be proud, confused, or scared?
I don't know. That's not even me anymore. I have no idea what that person, maybe at peace, maybe worried. Maybe they think that I'm on the wrong path. Like I have no, how come you weren't Master Chief of the Navy, bro? I don't know. I have no idea what they, how come you don't live in Thailand and all? Like, I have no idea. I don't know what they might be thinking, but I am here.
Yes, you are, sir. I'd like to conclude this podcast and read an email that I received on April 28th about you.
Okay.
You ready? Buckle in.
Yeah, I'm ready.
This is a full circle moment. Miles, please meet Diego, a SEAL teammate who is involved with much important work. He assists with plant-based medicine therapy for veteran trauma. He founded Warriorside, a veteran storytelling not-profit that heals through the spoken word and the effort found in surfacing the stories that need to be told. He is currently a California monk, crunchy, existential. I love him and what he is doing, and you enjoy talking to him on the Fight or Flight podcast. Thank you for your time, brother.
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it, Miles.
That's a wrap, Brozini.